Welcome everybody to These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For special video edition. We will be talking about something very cool today. Of course, though, I have Kevin sitting across the cyberwebs. We are trying something very different.
That's me. I guess I should introduce myself. Kevin Horde here.
Yeah, we've done video once before, so we're giving another shot.
Kind of. Technically, we've done video twice, but I had equipment that was not reliable at the time and crapped out on us. So you've only seen one of them. There's been two that have been videoified.
It's all good, man. The reason we want to do video today is because we will be talking about Rise of the Resistance, the brand new ride at both Walt Disney World and Disneyland Resort. This is our very long delayed review, and we'll probably talk a little bit about Galaxy's Edge as a whole as well. Full disclosure, I have been to Disneyland. I live in Southern California. Kevin has been to nothing. So he's just been getting my reaction to everything Disney related over the last, since it opened in May here, and then Rise of the Resistance opened in January of 2020 here at Disneyland Resort, opened at the beginning of December for Walt Disney World at Hollywood Studios.
I will say that that gives me the freedom to look at whatever the hell I want online. Lorenzo was a little bit more reserved in spoiler territory, where I'm just digging into everything and watching Galaxy's Edge stuff and full videos of Rise of the Resistance before he had ridden on it. So I like these types of videos because I don't have to do anything but sit here and you do all the work. It's great.
What should we talk about first? Should we talk about Galaxy's Edge as a whole, or should we jump into the ride then back out? What do you think we should start with? There's still we haven't ever on the show talked about Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run either. So we'll kind of do a hodgepodge perhaps, but where do you want to start with?
Let's just get into it, man. Let's talk about the Rise of the Resistance.
Okay. So I'm going to start spoiler free, but this is the Big Daddy ride. This is the major e-ticket that Disney has put together. It's the exact same ride at both Walt Disney World and Disneyland Resort. And for those of you who have not looked it up somehow in the last couple of months here, for some context, it's the ride that puts you in between a battle happening between the Resistance and the First Order. There were a lot of delays that happened around this ride.
It's very true.
So again, the Galaxy's Edge opened in May, and the ride only just opened mid-January here. That said, I think I'll start getting into more spoiler territory. So
let's just call this a spoiler video.
Yes.
If you haven't been or haven't seen whatnot online,
we're gonna discuss the full ride here essentially.
Sure.
And I'll have my reactions to it. And Kevin, you've already seen it. You know all the spoilers, so I think we're all good there. But essentially, what Disney has done with this ride is kind of take everything they have done over the last 60-some years, 65 years almost now, of rides and technology and storytelling through rides in a physical medium, and put it all together in one ride. And just right off the bat, I'm going to say this is the best ride I personally have ever gone on. In terms of immersion, in terms of thrills, in terms of surprises, and just sort of the adventure and feeling that you get when you get off of this ride. I'll kind of do a quick overview of the ride, and then maybe I'll explain more of why I think this ride works better than others. And kind of that inexplicable Disney factor that's hard to kind of quantify sometimes. Once you get in the queue for the ride, you're already being... First of all, Galaxy's Edge is already very immersive as a land, right? And then when you get pulled into the queue, you turn corners and you're definitely in landscape, but then you start seeing like laser cut tunnels, and then you start seeing like the machinery and the screens that they look at during like battles, right?
Yeah, I would like to say that I was totally impressed on like my first viewing of the queue of this whole thing.
Right.
And I had heard numbers before all this had actually opened that it was like a 20-minute experience. And they're saying, I guess Disney was saying like that's, it's not a 20-minute ride, right? It's a 20-minute experience, and the experience starts once you hit the queue.
But starting with the queue, it really is a good prologue to the experience. Like, what I personally consider the start of the quote unquote experience is once you enter the first pre-show. And there are something like 3 pre-shows that happen. So you walk through the queue, and then the first thing you do once you get to the end of this section of queue is you get put in a room. You see BB-8 rolling around. It's a very impressive, big animatronic. Then a new character, Lieutenant Beck, shows up, and he mentions an incoming message from Rey. Then there's a Rey hologram that pops up that's super impressive.
Is he the Calamarian?
Yes. So Lieutenant Beck is the Calamarian.
Okay.
There is the mention that Nine Nunn is piloting a ship, which is awesome because he's one of my favorite characters. So this pre-show alone is super awesome. Poe shows up in this pre-show. They really lay down the mission that you're about to head on. So for those, again, uninitiated, Batuu, the planet of Galaxy's Edge, the Resistance base has been discovered there, and the First Order is coming in. So if you're part of the Resistance, you just got to get out. So the Resistance is going to help us get off planet. And we're going to go to some other planet, which off the top of my head, I don't recall what it is, but we're going to go, quote, see Leia is what they mention here.
I mean, spoiler alert, you don't need to know what the name of that planet is because you don't make it there.
We do not make it there.
Yeah.
We barely make it out of the atmosphere. But I will say, though, that this hologram is super impressive. Like, no matter where you're standing in the room,
You're talking about the
great.
the Rey.
The Rey hologram. Okay. Because you can see past the hologram, you can see the wall behind it, and it's literally just a one-way mirror. Spoiler alert. Again, spoiler and magic behind the magic sort of stuff. So, but I nerd out about this stuff. Like, this stuff doesn't kill the illusion for me. It just makes it stronger, if anything.
I have not seen it in person. I've only seen it via YouTube videos, honestly, and it's fucking impressive.
It's awesome. It's different technology. If you've been on the Harry Potter ride at Universal Studios, the Escape from Gringotts, there's something called Musion technology that they've been using. I originally thought this was that, but this is not that.
Well, I thought you had told me Pepper's Ghost, right?
I thought it was a Pepper's Ghost, and it is also not that.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know what any of these terms mean because it's all techno jargon as far as I'm concerned. But
I thought it was Pepper's Ghost, meaning that I thought it was like a mirror with the projection or the image of Rey somewhere else, and the mirror was slightly opaque, and that's how you're seeing through Rey.
Right.
That's what I thought it was. What it appears to be is an OLED screen that is behind the mirror. So, and the OLED is not at full brightness.
Right.
So there's a mirror here in front. You see the mirror,
angle, right?
It's at an angle. So what you end up actually seeing is the other side of the wall to either your right or your left, depending on what pre-show room you go in, because there's 2 pre-show rooms.
Oh, shit.
So you are actually seeing the wall that's right next to you, but then because the TV's behind a one-way mirror, you still see bits of that wall making it through the mirror, right? Does that make sense?
Sure.
So that's how you're able to see through Rey, because you're just seeing actual reflection,
right?
But like
with a
there's
projection,
with the actual TV behind it. You know, it's brilliant. It's so simple, but it's so effective. Then when this pre-show is over, the first wow factor, legit, like the first time I went on this, I went on the first Sunday it opened. It opened on a Friday. I was there that Sunday. So this pre-show ends. Poe is going to accompany us. We got to get on the ship with Lieutenant Beck and Nien Nunb, right? The doors open, and you go back outside. It's hidden away so well from the rest of the park that...
So from the Rey projection room, you go back outside is what you were saying?
Yes.
Okay. I thought you jumped forward a little bit, but I'm understanding now.
Yeah, you immediately go outside. There's Poe's X-Wing. It's tinted out, but like if you're there during the day and you look very closely, there is just a basic head in there. You know, there's just a dummy in there, but
creepy.
It sells the illusion that Poe's in there waiting to take off with us. So you walk up to a sizable ship, right?
The transport ship?
Yeah, the transport ship, right? So you enter from the starboard side of this ship. If you go...
That would be the right side.
Yes. If you go to the front, the bow of the ship... Do these terms still work for flying vehicles? I don't know. Front and back. So the front of the ship has a really, really impressive Lieutenant Beck audio animatronic. There is a more simple Nien Nunb animatronic that you can see the back of his head, but he is moving. There are video monitors elsewhere, and every now and then we do get a video monitor of Nien Nunb, which is, I think, CG. I think it's purely CG.
Okay.
But I've been on the ride 4 times now, and when he looks right on the monitor, that animatronic moves with him, and it's all in sync. That stuff is all in sync, and it's very awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if you ever see the front of the animatronic.
Not for Nien Nunb, no. He never fully turns around. You only see the helmet. You see the back of the helmet, but you do. He turns his head, but you never get any face at all.
Do you get any side boob on his face?
No, nothing at all. So it's purely helmet. You just purely see helmet.
Okay.
And of the 4 times I've been on this ride, I've done once in the middle. The first time I was in the middle because I had no idea what was going on, right? Again, hadn't watched anything, knew nothing.
I did.
Yeah. The second time I was in the back, I believe, and then the third and fourth time I was up front. And you do get different perspectives on the same event depending on where you're standing, which is really interesting. So in the front, obviously you get the great view of the animatronics, but from the back there is a little window out into space where you get to see a lot of the action happening.
Oh, out the back, like a back window?
Yeah, there is a back window and you can look right out. And
so where's the engines then?
It's off to the side, so it's on.
So are you looking like in between those, essentially?
Yeah, basically. There's like 2 big engines. So from the outside of the ship, you can see where the engines are, because that's the first thing that happens even before you get on the ship. So you walk into this outside corridor. The door isn't open onto the ship yet, but Beck is like, there are a couple cast members there playing Resistance members, and they're like, stand back, like the ship's ignite, the ignitions are starting, and it does. Like you see the lights turn on, you hear it. There is extra lights that shine off to the back, before you even step on this. This part freaked me out too, because you're just standing in this room on the ship. It's standing room only. There are no seats. There's nothing happening. The ship does take off into quote unquote space. Right. So this part, again, technically this is a pre-show, but you're in something that's moving. So mid-ride? I don't know what to call this,
Pre-ride, yeah.
Yeah. So you do feel the ship moving. It's obviously like nothing dangerous. It's all OSHA approved, right? But the first time I didn't know what was happening, so I definitely grabbed onto a pole. I thought maybe it would move as much as like a bus does, maybe, you know, or like a tram at the airport, you know?
More than that?
Less than, you know?
Huh.
It's a very smooth ride. Like, the subsequent times I've been on, I've noticed people, like, they hear, like, because Lieutenant Beck even says, like, hold on, we're going off into space now before we blast into hyperspace. And you see people, like, what's going on? What's going on? And they grab onto something, right?
Does he have 2 turntables or a microphone?
No, he does not. No.
Okay, just check.
There is no bass drop. But the ship is moving. Like, you feel it rocking a little bit. And then Star Destroyers show up, TIE Fighters show up. And that's when shit hits the fan, right?
Is there like a jostling of this thing?
It jostles very lightly.
Okay.
But it does jostle. But again, standing room only, not enough to throw anybody.
Right,
you know.
not motion simulation.
Yeah, no, it's
Okay.
it's you feel vibration on your feet, sort of thing, you know.
Okay.
And it jostles enough that, you know, like you feel like you're on like just uneven ground, right? We get dragged by a tractor beam onto a Star Destroyer. Huck shows up. Poe blasts out of there to go get help. Something I messaged you. You get to see what it looks like when you go through the blue shield.
Oh, yeah. I was excited to talk about this.
So, there is also like a moonroof situation, so you can see above you as well. So if you're standing dead center of this ship, you can also look up and see into space that way. And when you cross through, you see the blue line travel across the ship.
That is so cool.
And there is a noise that accompanies it, you know? There's like this sort of like vroom, like that sort of happens.
Now bring down your shields and prepare to be boarded.
Tell them the location of our secret base. Tell them nothing. The future of the Resistance is at stake. I have a bad feeling about this.
From the front or the back, you can still, like, during the attack, you just get different views of the attack, right? But as soon as you get tractor beamed onto the ship, it's very clever. Like, you see it docking in, and the port side goes into the Star Destroyer first, and it lands, right? But kind of in the mayhem of all this, like, most people don't pay attention. So here is the biggest wow factor. Again, spoiler alert. I had a hint. I had just had a gut feeling, just based on how crazy this ride was up to this point. As soon as Lieutenant Beck is like, everybody stand back from those doors, watch out. So you enter from the starboard side, and the first time I went on, again, opening weekend, everybody starts facing the port side door, right? The opposite door from which we entered. No! The same door that we got on opens up. A first order trooper officer walks on the ship, yells at us, tells us to get off for interrogation, right?
Because y'all in a different place, man. You took off the planet of Batu, and you have been abducted on a Star Destroyer.
It's so legit. Impressive. It's so impressive. And also the room that you enter is easily one of the biggest showrooms I've ever seen.
It's fucking huge, right?
It's massive. And again, we're not even technically on the ride yet, right? Then you do enter another little queue section. Mm-hmm. So this is similar to, again, if anybody has gone on rides a lot before, this is similar to, there's a pre-show for Tower of Terror, then there is still like an extra queue bit after that, you know? Mm-hmm. This is not uncommon in Disneyland and Disney sort of rides, right? You do a queue.
They give you a little entertainment, and then they split you up a little more. You got to wait a little bit longer.
Yes, exactly. Because of this section being such a part of the story, like, I think I was texting you, I was texting a bunch of my other friends. I was like, I don't care what it takes. You all need to get on this goddamn ride.
Yeah.
And I think I was messaging you, and I'm like, oh, and note, I haven't even gone on it yet. I just went through the queue.
Right. I'm on part 2 of the line.
Yeah, I'm on part 2. There is a part 3. And so the next bit is definitely you're taken in by Imperial officers. You're thrown in a jail cell. Kylo Ren tries to interrogate you with Hux. And this is this is more of that simple Musion technology I was talking about. So you do look up. There is a semi-impressive moment where you're in this room and there is no seemingly way out. Then lasers start cutting on the wall, and then like a panel of the wall disappears, and the Resistance are like, "You guys got to come through. We're the part with the Resistance. Come on through." This is when the ride starts in earnest, right?
So is there like smoke effect, or
there is no smoke effects? There's just lighting effect that shows up around the doors.
Right.
So the door retracts back and slides over. You do get in the vehicles at this point. There are 2 separate vehicles every time with 2 rows of 4. So 8 per vehicle.
16 people per ride rotation.
Yes, yeah.
10-4.
So you get strapped in. Finn gives you one last message. This is when the ride starts in earnest, and it's so good because, like, right off the bat, it does something really clever where, as you exit the first room, 2 other empty ride vehicles are passing by you, and part of the ride is like, oh, like, tell them it's a prison transfer so that they don't catch you, right? So, like, there's an R5 unit on the front of both of the vehicles that talk to these other R5 units.
So there's like 4 R5 units.
As soon as, like, even the first time I rode this, I was like, holy shit, that's the most clever way to just in plain sight have 2 vehicles reset into the room, you know?
Do you always go out, like, from the interrogation room? Do you always go out to the right? Do you always go out to the left? Do you sometimes go out to the right, sometimes go out to the left?
Good question. Now I'm thinking, every time I've been on,
stumped.
When you enter the jail cell, you always the panel that gets removed always is on the right, always. And I have been in, I want to say, at least 3 different of those rooms.
Okay.
I think I've been in the same one twice, but yeah, it always has been on the right, no matter where those interrogation rooms are, which is really interesting now that. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, I'm just like working the physical space in my head right now because that shit again fascinates me.
Right.
Then the way these 2 vehicles, because they're trackless, they can look at each other. One will independently rotate. It's super interesting.
And they don't move the same.
Not at all.
Each time.
There's what I have started calling a front loading car and a back loading car.
Right.
The front vehicle will always travel in the same path, and the back vehicle will always travel in the same path.
So it always does like the same right-left
same rotation.
Okay.
Yep. They just will. They aren't connected to each other per se, in terms of the path itself. As like, you know, like a traditional roller coaster,
right.
There's one track, right?
Right.
But otherwise, the tracks themselves are programmed, and they are the same every time.
Gotcha.
So there are ride variations between the vehicles, but not within the vehicles.
Right. So the first car is always the same invisible track.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So you go through some mayhem where you almost get caught by a probe droid. Stormtroopers see you. They start shooting laser bolts at you, which are super impressive. You see pieces of the set fly away.
I've heard that you see the fucking laser blast like fly past your head.
I wouldn't go as far as saying fly past your head. I would say fly over your head.
Okay.
It's somewhat obvious, but in the moment, it's so quick and thrilling that it's the best. It's clearly the best we can do. You know, for laser bolts flying in the air, it's clearly the best they can do, and for that, I think it's a top-notch job. You know, they're like rails hidden in the ceiling that are dropped down a little bit that look like they're part of just the Star Destroyer ceiling. But there's just lights that are hidden within that. Again, they fly so quickly. And it's like you just in your peripheral see the red bolts.
Right.
At least for me, what you see more is that there is a hole in the wall at the end of the bolt. There's a hole. There's fire effects. That's all really effective. The next section is when you get to the big room with the AT-ATs.
These two droids anyway.
That room gets gasps every time I've been on this ride. That room is so impressive. There are 2 Finn animatronics in there, and each ride vehicle goes their separate way, but they each see Finn. The audio is the same on both cars as far as I can remember.
Oh, interesting.
Which is why, basically, from both points of view, like, you are seeing the one Finn that's telling you to get the fuck out of there, right?
Yeah, I was about to ask, like, how does the ride itself kind of iron the continuity of it with Finn being in 2 places? But if he's doing essentially the same thing, and it's just you're witnessing it from one point of view or another point of view, even though he's not like physically in the same location.
Yeah. Like at this point you're separated from the other vehicles, so you do lose your friends. And then from each viewpoint you can only see Finn. There's only one Finn that's in front of you.
Right.
Depending on what ride path you get, either stormtroopers attack you or AT-ATs attack you. Then the next part, you go to the bridge. There are 2 animatronics, one of Hux, one of Kylo. You do get reunited with the other ride vehicle. Kylo catches you. You back out of there. Kylo jumps down. And we were talking about this. There is another screen of Kylo on video that's happening. But the creative thing that's happening here is he's holding a lightsaber, and the flat video screen that doesn't look flat from your perspective is holding a real 3D lightsaber, which is really interesting. So they tracked a physical lightsaber to move with where the video monitor's projection hand is, which is fascinating.
I'm gonna have to watch this again.
Yeah.
Is it a Force Effects lightsaber?
It looks nice, that's for sure. You back into an elevator, you drop down, Kylo jumps, there is a lightsaber through the ceiling effect that happens, then you back out of that elevator, you drive past a bunch of giant, what are they, like the big cannon blasters?
Yeah.
That part is really cool because the cannon blasters are massive. Like, there's 3 of them, 3 or 4 of them in this room.
That also, like, that's a little tie-in to the prequels, because that's the only time that we see those.
Is it really?
Yeah, I mean, we don't see them in, like, the OT or the sequel trilogy, right?
Yeah.
It's only when we see the clones, like, inside the good guy Star Destroyers, and they're, I want to say, like, episode 3 during that aerial battle at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, good point. So, yeah, they come back here.
It's super cool, though. Super cool.
Because there's a big, like, panoramic window to the right of both vehicles at this point, too. And you can look out, and the perspective of when the vehicles are moving with what's happening outside of these windows is so well done. And the thing that kind of broke my brain thinking about it later, too, is that they had to track the same, like, parallax motion on this screen with 2 vehicles that are...
Yeah, you're tracking, like, multiple sets of eye lines.
Right, exactly. So that part fascinates me as well. The next scene, you get caught by Kylo Ren one more time. He pulls your vehicles to you with the Force. And this is like the one part of the ride where the vehicles kind of do jolt a little bit, so you really feel like him pulling you. He tries to get information out of you one more time, but a TIE fighter gets shot down and crashes into the side of the ship right behind him. A big hole opens behind him. There's a big gust of wind that happens right at this moment. It's super impressive. But you and I have discussed before, this
Yeah.
is the one part of the animatronic that the animation is definitely a little like wonky. He's just like, oh, like,
Yeah, my comments about it were that viewing it like online from somebody that shot it on, their phone or who knows what type of device, he looks goofy because clearly, like, wherever his ankles are in a fixed position.
yeah, those are
And
locked in. Yeah,
It does like this.
like every part of else of him is like wobbling around, but not clearly not the part where he'd want to like widen his stance and bolt
Right.
down.
Like he is
but-
so good at doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But at this point, we back out of that room and then we enter 2 escape pods. So both vehicles enter separate escape pods. This honestly is my favorite part of the ride. So up to this point, and I'm not gonna lie, even after this point, if you were wondering at all, I think anybody can ride this ride. Even people that don't like thrill rides, people afraid of roller coasters. It's not a roller coaster. Your body does not go through any sort of heavy stress whatsoever.
So what about like the visual, like flashing lights? Is there like an epilepsy thing here?
Nothing too bad. No, like the red lasers would be the worst, but again, it's just like a strip of light, not bright flashing in the whole room.
Right.
The
No
only
strobe
warning,
effect.
yeah, no strobe effect. The only warning I would give here is, so once you get in the escape pod, there is a warning of what's going to happen, because what you see in front of you, so this is when we get to a motion sim section. But again, I have friends who are very sensitive with motion simulators, and I would still recommend them go on this ride, because this section isn't long. But you see an escape pod drop in front of you, and then your escape pod drops. The ride vehicle itself does drop what feels like either 10 or 20 feet. It's not bad, but this is going to be the most physically exerting part of the ride.
Your escape pods came in a little off target. Ground crews will meet you outside the wreck.
I feel like this section would be the part that if I told my wife about it, she would not want to go. But if I didn't tell her about it, she might be okay with it.
Yeah, it's not bad. It is not bad at all. But the drop is unlike any other drop I've been on, because it's a drop ride that has a motion simulator platter on it. So there's a few
so
things
you go
happening
immediately
during
like from drop like into the
motion sim.
into the dip and dive, right?
So it feels so weird, and it's so different than any other ride I've ever been on.
That's cool.
Because you kind of drop, and then the butt tilts back for you to kind of like take off again.
Oh, that's super cool.
So it's really interesting. And again, the 4 times I've ridden it, the first time I had no clue. I was white knuckling the first time, and then this drop happens, and my breath was just like out of my body, right?
Nice.
But every other time, then getting to experience with other people who've never been on it, like the screams that come out at this point, because it's a really bizarre feeling. But basically, we escape pod back onto Batu, which I think is super clever, because when you get off the ride, you have to enter back onto Galaxy's Edge, right? So basically, it ends with a motion sim finale where you crash land back onto Batu.
Alright, nice job, recruits. Not what you signed on for, but hey, you're Resistance now. I think I have that authority. Right, Beck? Where's the lieutenant? I need eyes on Beck. I know, Stanford's people. Lieutenant!
Yeah! I should hope so. Great job, recruits.
But then that's it. That's the end of the ride after all of that.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. As far as the exit point is from the entrance point, Like, how far away are we? Can you see, like, the people entering the ride? Do you exit through the gift shop? You know what I mean?
You do exit past, like, gift shop stalls that are right there. But you
It should
like,
be fucking Watto selling some stuff.
on Batu. If he's still alive at this point.
Yeah.
But you
be
are maybe
Tato.
like 30, 40 feet away from the entrance to the ride, and the way the land is
Constructed.
curved at
Yeah.
this section, you aren't like, there's no direct eye line to it, but you're pretty much right back where you started. Yeah.
Huh. That's pretty cool.
So you do get spit back out. Pretty much, it's in the Resistance 4 section of Galaxy's Edge, right?
Yeah.
But I am telling you, this is the best ride I have ever been on in my life. My previous distinction would have gone to Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey at Universal Studios Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios Hollywood. But this one
And
goes above and beyond.
you haven't ridden Hagrid's magical
That's the one I have
motorcycle
not
of
ridden yet.
beehives or whatever it is.
Right, yeah. It's the longest.
Okay.
It's like Hagrid's magical motorbike, magical creature motorbike adventure or something like
Something
that.
like
I
that.
don't- Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
just-
one I have not been on yet.
Okay.
I hear great things about that, but as for personal rides I have been on, this is it. This is the one.
I got a couple of quick questions. What is the rise of the Resistance?
Okay. I was wondering this too. I don't know. I honestly don't know. We haven't discussed this yet either, but so the whole land now takes perpetually it's perpetually stuck in a time period between episode 8 and 9.
Right.
Kylo Ren's on this ride. So, Rise of Skywalker spoilers, with the death of various characters who appear on the ride.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Right.
Is that new?
So this ride is firmly canon. It's referenced in the visual dictionaries, as Star Wars properties do,
Yes.
So that part is interesting.
I was going to see if you could just comment on. I don't think we have time to get into the process of actually getting onto this ride
No.
or getting into the queue. I think we'll have to revisit
Just
that at
in a
another
quick-
point in time.
Yeah,
But,
in a quick 15-second thing, there's like a process of boarding groups. There's no actual queue. If you're headed to Disneyland or Walt Disney World, just Google Rise of the Resistance boarding groups. There's a long process, multi-step process that is very involved.
So Galaxy's Edge opened with Smuggler's Run,
Yep,
And
only
then-
Smuggler's Run.
and then now finally has the Rise of Resistance.
Yep. So
As
as
well.
of now, as of what was officially announced, the land is now complete. That is not to say that I don't think this is it for the land. I think they're going to let the dust settle a little bit, but just a quick review of both Smuggler's Run, Galaxy's Edge, after
Please.
that very long excursion through Rise of the Resistance. Smuggler's Run, I think, is a very good ride. I think it's a very good e-ticket that complements Rise of the Resistance really well. Rise of the Resistance is all the new characters. What I like about Rise of the Resistance is that it's not a retelling of things we've already seen. It really brings you on an adventure, that you are a part of. You're still passive as most rides are to some degree,
Right.
but you do feel like you have been brought on a journey, right? Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run is definitely like the nostalgia ride. Go on that one if you want to fly a Falcon, right? And I've been on that ride maybe 20 times now, right? And I still love it. I think it's a lot of fun. Again, for people who are sensitive to motion simulators, this one's not that intense.
Okay. Not as intense as
Like Star Tours. Star Tours is a
Okay.
very intense motion simulator ride. I don't have a problem with motion sims, but I've definitely had friends who, after going on Star Tours, we had to sit down for like 30 solid minutes for them just to get their bearings straight again.
recombobulate.
Right. Absolutely. Like they just fully had to recompose,
Right.
like had to get them water and all that sort of stuff, right? Smuggler's Run is not nearly as intense as Star Tours.
Okay.
And it is a fun experience to be able to sit in the cockpit of the Falcon, fly it, you go on a mission. The ride does suffer from just having one mission at the moment when it's a video game ride. Like,
Why are you letting me go? Get down, up, right. Hit the button. Gunners, shoot it. Yeah. I got it. The score is collapsing. Look out! Oh, shit! Watch out! Let's get out of here.
people don't realize. I've been on a few times where I'm yelling directives at people, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know like the joysticks actually did anything." I'm like, "Yeah, like, fly. You're here to fly the Falcon. What the fuck, man? Like, you know." So
you're running and smuggling.
Yeah. So there
run
is
or smuggle.
Yeah, that ride has a cool interactive element to it. But what I don't get is why there aren't more than just one mission. Right now, the mission is going to Corellia and stealing coaxium. I've made this reference on this show many times already.
Yeah.
And the amount of times I've heard Hondo saying, "Oh, get the coaxium,"
get the coaxium.
Right. It's like, just program another run. Like, I don't why? Like, at least 3 that rotate around, right? You know.
Well, there is like a secret mission.
Sort of. There's you're still in
not really
Corellia.
a secret mission. It's
a
different
mode,
skin.
Easter egg, yeah. But Smuggler's Run is, I think, a very strong e-ticket on its own as well. As for Galaxy's Edge, again, it's definitely one of the most immersive lands I've ever been in.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not gonna lie, like I still see a lot of flaws in this land. The cantina is really cool for what it is, but it's very small. You have to make reservations. They designed it in a really weird way where I've been once. There's a 45-minute limit, and there's a 2-drink maximum. And the selling point is that Rex, the robot, is now a DJ. But from where I was standing at the bar, I could not see Rex, which was a huge design flaw to me. So I could hear him, I could hear the music, but I was looking at nothing. I was there alone.
You have to make a reservation, and then you are limited by time of how long you can stay there?
Yes. Yeah.
What?
It's because they need to make sure they can keep rotating through the people with other reservations, right?
Did they serve food?
Snacks, at best, is what I call it. Like, it's like glorified basket of pretzels.
Okay.
Right. Which I did not get. I got my 2 drinks and then paid a lot of money for a special mug. Like, it was like a $40 mug, essentially. But again, so Cantina's cool. It's fine. Once you're in there, like, honestly, 45-minute limit, 2-drink maximum is more than enough time. Like, I went alone, so I was just kind of standing around, like, you know, nobody to talk to or nothing to do, right? 45 minutes for me was way more than plenty of time.
Have you just been there the one time?
Yep, I've just been there the one time. I've honestly felt no great need to go back unless I have friends with me or something. But even then, like, the drinks are good. The drinks are good, at least. The 2 drinks I got were very good. It's just the layout is weird. For some people, it's like, depending on where you are, you might be standing. You know, where I was standing up against the main bar. So it's a horseshoe-shaped bar, right? With, like, stuff in the middle. That's why I couldn't see Rex, because I was on one end of the horseshoe where I couldn't see Rex on the other side. That was annoying.
Are the bartenders human?
They're all humans. Everybody in Galaxy's Edge is human. Except for Chewbacca. Chewbacca walks around. Chewie walks around. That's the only
And now they have droids, right?
R2
Supposedly.
is the only droid that rolls around. So, again, it's still... My problem with Galaxy's Edge is they over-promised, under-delivered. Because they promised, like, this grand adventure where you could be meeting aliens and creatures from other planets. And these creatures would be running the stalls, and they'd be running the cantina. You know, you'd see them throughout the land. And then, like, a couple years later, they stopped mentioning that altogether, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember them also saying, I don't know, maybe I got this information from you, but that depending on what you did on, like, Smuggler's Run, that would affect your experience elsewhere within Galaxy's Edge itself.
They said that. They definitely said that. They sold that. It does not. Does not at all. It affects the cast members on the ride reacting to you getting off the ride, you know? But once you're outside of the building of that ride, then nope.
Now,
back to the normal lane.
Is there not like a Galaxy's Edge app or something
So there
that you
is
have
an
within the
app.
Disney app, or
Yes.
explain that a little more? And does that have, like, does the way you perform on Galaxy's Edge, or I'm sorry, on Smuggler's Run, or whether or not you have ridden the Rise of the Resistance, like, does that have anything to do with, is that connected to the internal workings of the app, or no?
It'll affect things in the app, but it doesn't it'll fundamentally change how you interact with the land per se, right?
Through the app, though.
Through the app. So there's an app on your phone through the Disney Play app.
Right.
So there'll be things you can scan, you can translate things on the walls, you can, like, hack, quote unquote, hack things or do missions on the phone for Finn that will, like, unlock things here and there. You can hack one of the ships even that will make the ship start buzzing up. So I've done that, and then people will, like, look at the ship and think something's going to start happening on the ship, but it just makes some noises.
And
it's
you did that.
Yes. It's
Gotcha.
a cool bonus layer to the land. It's just not as seamless.
feature?
Yeah, it's not a main feature, and it's not as seamless as I was hoping it would be. You know, it's still it's very bizarre to me that you go into this new land that Disney spent $1 billion on per land, and they want you to, like, look at your phone, right?
Yeah, that is weird.
Like, if you were out here for a day only, I would not recommend you touch the app at all. Just enjoy the land.
I probably wouldn't.
Right. Enjoy the land. Go enjoy the land.
I honestly probably wouldn't even try to get on Rise of the Resistance. You know,
I mean, and I'm not gonna
not
lie,
the way
like,
that things are set up currently.
I didn't even mess around with the Play app until, like, a couple months ago, right? I didn't realize, like, the features that were available within this app.
Yeah, I remember you texted me and you were like, holy shit, like, look at all these things.
Yeah, like, it can actually do a lot. Like, it's actually been keeping a running tally. Like, I have, like, a quote-unquote, like, credit account of how many credits I've earned over the various times I've been on Smuggler's Run.
From your
and apparently
Coaxium.
it keeps track of that via Bluetooth. So, like, every time you go on, like, there's somewhere on the ride, it knows that you're on it, you know, and it's keeping track. It's like, oh, hey, he's, like, within the cockpit. Like, and I've done it where I've taken a screenshot before I've gone on the ride of how many credits I have on the app. I go on and I get a certain amount of credits, and I look at the app later, and that's been added.
It's pretty impressive.
So, like, that part's cool, you know, like,
Yeah.
But again, I don't know what to do with that. Like, you know,
Yeah, you can't. It's not like you can cash them in or
right.
buy yourself some Kawaki
Exactly.
monkey lizard meat.
Yeah, like, I like that it's keeping track of that, but I just don't know if there's a grand plan that we just aren't privy to yet, or there are kinks that they're still kind of working out, right?
Once you hit like 1 billion credits, you're going to be sucked into some weird fucking side cave or something.
Right. Yeah.
And
like,
I'm not going to hear from you for a while, and then we won't be able to talk about it later, I think.
Right. Yeah. The other thing, like the glaring problem of this land, there are two. There are two glaring problems of Galaxy's Edge to me is that from the Disneyland perspective, south of the market, there is a walkway that runs parallel to the market. So you can walk around the market and then it'll lead you, depending on which path you take, either back to Falcon or to the First Order corner of Galaxy's Edge, right?
Okay.
It's just a walkway. There's nothing there. There's literally nothing to do. There's nothing to look at. Nobody walks around there. There are no characters that really walk around and really interact too much. Like, as many times as I've been in this land, I see Rey and I'll just give like a light wave and then she'll just like be on her merry way. Like, that's not interactive to me. That's not. It's immersive to a point, but for having spent $1 billion on this land and how much they built it up, it's just a weird glaring omission that I can just like bypass the market and then walk past an empty walkway, that has nothing to it. The second glaring omission to me is that there are no rides for young kids whatsoever. I believe both Smuggler's Run and Rise of the Resistance have like either a 38-inch or a 40-inch height minimum.
Oh, wow.
So, like, I don't understand, like, what families can really actually do in Disneyland at Galaxy's Edge, Yeah. Even if, like, so there was confirmation that there was supposed to be a third ride that was supposed to be, like, you get on the back of, like, some sort of creature, whether that be a bantha or something else.
Or a dewback.
A dewback or something, and you just sit on the back of that and you just travel through parts of the land, right? But that would have been...
It's like an animal tram.
Right, but that would have been a no height restriction ride. And honestly, this park clearly needs that, because the other big problem to me is that there's no kinetic energy in the land. Nothing moves, It's all buildings with doors that just either slide open or slide close, but there's no movement in the land that isn't just the people walking around, right?
Right.
You go into Fantasyland, like the carousels in the middle spinning around, right? There's Dumbo that's spinning around.
Right.
There are boats that pass by. Like, there's just life in the land.
Right.
Galaxy's Edge, of all places, there's nothing, It's really bizarre. For me, it's a minor issue that Batuu is not a land that anybody was familiar with prior to the land. Like, there's no... The first time I entered Galaxy's Edge, I did cry when I saw Millennium Falcon.
Oh, I can imagine.
It's awesome. It's a life-size Falcon right in front of you. But as to the land itself, I have no nostalgia factor for Batuu, right? Like...
Right.
There's nothing familiar about Batuu. Even when you go into the cantina, you're like, okay, it's a cantina, but it's not the cantina, I don't know why they didn't make an animatronic band for me, Well, I
like
get
the modal nodes?
Yeah, exactly. Like, so
I
there's
feel like that could have been pretty easily done.
Right.
Except for they only have that one song.
Well, I mean, there are other songs, I'm sure. That's the other problem, is that because the land is trying to be overly realistic, quote unquote, with you being in the land, there's no... If you catch my drift, there's no non-diegetic music that exists within the land.
That's totally fine, but I'm still going to call a little bit bogus on this, because I've been to fucking Chuck E. Cheese, and there was a giant animatronic rat that was built in the 1980s that played music for me.
Well, that's what I'm saying about the band in the cantina, but what I mean is, like, if you go into Fantasyland or you go into Tomorrowland, you go to Adventureland, there's always, like, music that's being pumped through speakers that, in the sense of the land, is supposed to be, if it were a movie, non-diegetic. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right?
It would be like the soundtrack.
Yeah. Like, it's supposed to just be the soundtrack.
Score.
Yeah. Like, you enter Wizarding World of Harry Potter, and John Williams' music is just pumping through, right? you at no point stop to think, well, where's that music coming from? Right?
God damn it, that rock is playing Hedwig's theme.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So with Galaxy's Edge, they went too far the other direction, where you go in and yes, there's the sound of people around you, but it's really missing that extra factor of having that music help you along, right? Like, I just it's a decision that makes sense on paper, but in actuality throws me off so badly, right? Where friends I've gone to Galaxy's Edge with, we have commented that our favorite place to be in Galaxy's Edge is actually in the bathroom, because there's a radio in all the bathrooms that plays music. And the music that plays in the bathroom is actually really fucking good. Like, it's really, really awesome music that's like faux, like pop music of the Star Wars universe, and like some of it comes from like Rex and stuff like that. The Rex track list also in the cantina is freaking awesome, you know? And also John Williams wrote brand new music for this land. I could not tell you where this music shows up whatsoever. I don't know I could not tell you why he wrote this music at all. I have not heard this John Williams music inside of Galaxy's Edge at all. So it's, look, I do think it's a step forward for theme parks and theme park theming and land construction. I don't think it changes the wheel the way Wizarding World did. I think Wizarding World was a huge game changer. I think this should make Universal step up just a hair, but honestly, I think really with Wizarding World, this is Disney stepping up to Universal's level finally, right? And the fact that for Disneyland Resort, or not Resort, for Disneyland Park itself, with Millennium Falcon and Rise of the Resistance, these are the first new rides within that individual park, not at the resort, but in that individual park since 1995, you know? So they've been slacking in that regard, but they did have Disney California Adventure open in the meantime, so they had a actual whole park open on the other side of that,
Right.
where the parking lot used to be. But all the same, I am such a mixed bag of emotions when it comes to how I feel about this land as a whole. That's not even to mention that there was a planned full sit-down restaurant that was supposed to sit behind the cantina that,
Right.
for budget reasons, was cut. The third ride was cut.
Right.
There was supposed to be a lot more live entertainment. You know, there was rumors / they sort of announced that like battles could have happened on the streets of Batuu, you know, and you just be in the middle of it. Nope. At most we get Vi Marathi running around, you know. I don't know how to pronounce her name. But again,
Vi.
it's a character from the books that are brand new, so nobody has a connection to this character whatsoever.
It's a character from the theme park that was put into the books so that
Right.
there was a reason
That they
for
could
her to be in the
backfill it.
theme park.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a really weird thing that they tried to go so canon with this land that it misses on literally everything I would want from a Star Wars land. You can't take pictures with Darth Vader because he's dead, you know. No Luke, no Han, no Leia. Like the best idea I'd read on Reddit was somebody suggested that every now and then, like maybe quarterly, they do like a week where canon gets turned off, you know?
Yeah.
And then like Boba Fett shows up, Darth Vader shows up, you get photo ops with them, you know? But as of
I
now,
think we'll have to talk about the canonicity of this thing at another
second
point
discussion.
in time. That feels like a whole nother
could-
discussion that we could talk about.
We
But
could go down that so for such a long time. Obviously, you and I.
here's my last question for you
Yes.
before we wrap this one up. As of right now, a common tourist coming to Disneyland
Yes.
that is also a Star Wars fan,
Mm-hmm.
should they go down the Galaxy Edge route, or should they utilize their time elsewhere within the
No,
park?
absolutely. I think Galaxy's Edge, for any Star Wars fan, will still hit the spot.
Okay.
I think there's still enough there that will hit the spot in terms of things to see. Again, I say if you're out of towner coming into Anaheim or Orlando, do everything you can to get on Rise of the Resistance. I think that is the main showpiece. That absolutely is the experience that needs to be discussed, right?
Okay.
There's still one experience I haven't even done yet, and that's the other complaint I have is I haven't built a lightsaber because it costs $200 fucking dollars. But there's a whole show around it, but I haven't seen it yet, you know. Whereas at least in Wizarding World, you can go to Ollivanders, you can see the show. You don't have to buy a $200 wand
Oh, that's right, because you can't get into
to
build
Savvy's.
a lightsaber
Yeah.
unless
Yeah.
you're going to build a lightsaber.
Yeah, you pay up front to get the lightsaber that you haven't even built yet. You know? And even for me, and you know me, like people watching the video, there's a lot of swag behind me
Right.
here, right? Like even for hell, there's a lightsaber to over my left shoulder here. There's two of them. But even then, just the idea of spending $200 on top of my annual pass, you know, which is already expensive, or somebody paying $154 potential dollars and then $200 on top of that.
Right. Per
get this
person just to
experience.
get into the land, right?
Yeah. Like, just to get into this lightsaber experience is obnoxious. Like, it's so obnoxious that I don't... Like, look, no, I understand. I understand what Disney wants. They're definitely gonna make that. They're gonna make that money. Just come prepared to have a few experiences, but more money things, right?
Right.
Like, be prepared to spend money. You know, there's another quick service restaurant. There's a cantina. There's the marketplace, Savvy's. There's a market. There's the booth selling stuff in the Resistance Forest, right? There's another store back by the First Order corner, right? Mm-hmm. But after you do the 2 rides, cantina, and you eat something at Docking Bay 7, you're kind of just walking around, you know? It's a land that, disbarring how long it takes to get on the rides itself, like, you could walk around within like an hour or 2 and have seen enough.
So it's worth stopping by, but it's not worth spending the night.
No, it's a one-dayer, you know.
Okay.
For Galaxy's Edge specifically, I think Disneyland specifically as a whole is a huge park. There's a lot going on in that park. Disneyland as a whole, if you're a theme park fan, you still might need 2 separate days to just experience
right.
everything. Disneyland has a lot more going on in it, singularly, than Disney Hollywood Studios for sure. Disney Hollywood Studios does not quite have nearly as much going on. There are a lot fewer rides at Disney Hollywood Studios than there are at Disneyland. But otherwise, my understanding is the lands are basically one-to-one the exact same for the most part. But there are more alcoholic drinks available at Orlando's version.
Hey, you got me sold there.
Magic Kingdom is not a dry park, unlike Disneyland, where the cantina is the only place to get alcoholic drinks. And again, 2 maximum, cannot take them out of the cantina.
Right.
That's my quick review on Galaxy's Edge and Rise of the Resistance and Smuggler's Run. So, yeah. Our long overdue chat on Galaxy's Edge.
It's been a while, guys. We've taken some time off from recording, and from the Clone Wars specifically, we have
Right.
been slowly getting through Star
Just
Wars.
life.
Yeah.
Resistance and just
Yeah,
life.
Star Wars
I've been out of
Resistance
town, admittedly, so I've been out of
Yeah.
town most of this year.
Lorenzo's
Most
been
of
doing some
2020.
traveling, but I
Yeah.
promise you in 2020 we are going to
We'll get back into it.
we'll get back on track at some point in time.
Yeah.
So,
But we were
if
just
you-
hoping to do this video review just because it just sounded, to me anyways, it sounded fun.
yeah.
And I've
Lorenzo's
gone
been
down
talking
a-
about this
yeah.
for a while, and it took a bit to get our schedules synced, but here we are.
Right. Yeah. I'm a huge fan of YouTube, so just
Yeah.
give us a review on either YouTube or if you are listening to the audio only version. Hopefully this still works for you in a non-visual format.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're listening to the audio only, head on over to YouTube, and we probably should have said this at the beginning, but you can see our pretty mugs, and let us
Right.
know, give us a little comment, like, subscribe over on that front, and
Please do.
that'll hopefully enable us to do this more often and see you guys face to face, which
Right.
is the goal of this thing moving forward. So
Right. Yeah. And then do you want to give our shout outs that we usually do at the end of every episode?
yeah, I mean, we got 3 people behind the scenes that have given us a little help. That would be my buddy Kevin Warren. You can find him on Twitter at They Call Me KDub. Lindsay Raleigh, who is at strangefantasymusic@gmail.com. And then Kevin and my buddy Anthony at Blue the Beard on Twitter. He put together our website, which you can find at notthenerds.com. You can find all of our social media links there. Also, a playlist of our YouTube videos, right? So,
Right.
that's kind of the central location of everything that you would need to find us. But yeah, if you just stumbled upon us and you made it this far, we would love it if you give us a subscription, like, share, subscribe, all that jazz, man.
Hope you enjoyed. I'm Lorenzo Fon.
Kevin Horde here.
These aren't the nerds you're looking for.
Bye-bye.